Good morning everyone, and thank you to the conference host for inviting me to close this event. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to talk to you all today, although it is a pity that it isn't in Durban as planned. Creating a thriving, inclusive and diverse research system lies at the heart of my role as the UK's Minister for Science, Research and Innovation. And research assessment, what we value and how we value it, drives research culture at all levels, in individual research organisations, within and across disciplines, and at national and international levels. Science, research and innovation are increasingly international endeavours, which is why global conferences such as this one are so important, giving us an opportunity to share practices, raise awareness of common issues and work together to improve our research systems. These discussions are significant and critical steps towards embedding responsible research assessment practices across the globe, and I would like to thank the more than 650 delegates worldwide who've participated and engaged so effectively in the conference plenary. I would also like to thank the attendees who joined the regional meetings and the chairs of these discussions. As we all know, international collaboration has been put firmly in the spotlight in recent times, and the coronavirus pandemic really has demonstrated the great things that can be achieved when we work together, and the vital importance of doing so. This has also been a challenging time for funders who've had to take and make funding decisions in an agile but robust way to allow researchers to make maximum opportunity to undertake their valuable life-saving work. From speaking to researchers and innovators in the UK, it is clear to me that we need to work together as an international community to make sure that our research assessment systems do what we need them to do. We need to fund, recognise and reward research in ways that allow our research communities to thrive, freeing researchers to focus their efforts on exploration and discovery so we can realise the benefits this brings to all of us. Research funders play an important role as stewards of the research and innovation system. Through their funding and policies, they nurture and support their research communities and have both the opportunity and responsibility to drive positive change. They must therefore not be afraid of asking difficult questions and taking considered decisions which have the potential to make a real difference. And I'm heartened by the way in which such questions and decisions have been approached this week. Events such as this one are so very important for sharing approaches and putting in place coordinated practices which can have a significant impact on our researchers and the common research culture. Recognising shortcomings of the system and areas which require improvement, which attendees have done so honestly this week, is essential if we are to move forward as a global community and enable high quality research to have the maximum possible impact. But funders are not the only players on the field, and we cannot look to them to provide all the solutions. Research assessment also takes place within research organisations. Whenever individuals apply for a job or for a promotion, it takes place within academic publishing as articles are considered by reviewers and editors for publication. It takes place on the global stage as world university rankers create league tables based on methods and metrics that aren't always transparent. If we take one of the thorniest issues in the global research community, the so-called publish or perish culture, it's clear that there is no single cause. Rather, the pressure that researchers feel to produce lots of publications and place them in the high-impact journals is a product of a global system that often relies on crude metrics and proxy measures to assess research. It comes from senior managers in universities who themselves are under pressure to make sure that their institute performs well in their global ranking. It comes from subject communities who, working under immense time pressures, turn to proxies such as journal impact factors when assessing their peers. And yes, it comes from funders when they are seen, rightly or wrongly, to value quantity over quality, novelty over rigour, established research superstars over emerging thinkers. So what can funders do? Well, I think this conference is a great start in a world where there is science and scientists regularly move across national boundaries. There are a number of issues which could greatly benefit from international approach to resolving them. The report produced by the Research on Research Institute ahead of this conference, itself an international collaboration between researchers, shows that funders are finding many creative solutions. I was interested to see the narrative CVs, something our national funder has recently introduced, are being introduced into several countries. This approach, which values a wide range of research outputs and activities, is a step towards measuring what matters. In valuing researchers' wide contributions to knowledge, we can help to ensure that the integrity of science itself is maintained and questionable research practices are avoided. I recognise and understand the burden of bureaucracy and that the difficulty of striking the fine balance between providing accountability for funding while avoiding unnecessary, lengthy and complex bureaucratic processes is another central issue which has been discussed this week. We need to free up our researchers to allow them to pursue high-risk, high-reward research in a way that doesn't compromise the integrity of the research assessment process. But it is vital that the conversation does not end here and that the discussions and learning from this conference are the starting point for a deeper and broader discussion with the Global Research Council. I know that the Council structures are considering the development of a statement of responsible research assessment, which may then be discussed and endorsed in 2021, and I encourage them to be bold in their ambitions. The Council has already laid strong foundations for this work through its previous statement on peer merit review and its gender working group. An action plan endorsed by the Council could offer concrete steps towards responsible research assessment practices, which we all want to see. I strongly believe that this needs to be a truly international conversation, and I have written to science ministers across 18 nations to encourage them to consider what governments can do to support funders, research organisations and researchers to find indicators of excellence that truly measure the impact and excellence of the full spectrum of research activity. With so many possible ways forward, this is an exciting project to work on an international scale, and I greatly look forward to seeing the outcomes of this week's discussions being taken forward. I am keen that we work together as an international community to explore the findings of this conference, develop our understanding of regional perspectives, to identify potential approaches and consider their risks, benefits, and how we can support their implementation. A positive and supportive research culture is vital to underpin this, and although there is no overnight fix for areas of research assessment which require attention, I hope and strongly believe that if we continue to work together as an international community, a healthy and productive research ecosystem can be achieved. Thank you.
Pleasure and privilege to make these closing remarks in extremely long but productive on global research councils as his current chair, and the National Research Foundation as his executive officer, to thank our colleagues in UKRI, and in particular Research England, and all other organizations who have partnered with us to deliver a very successful event, despite these very strange and highly challenging circumstances that COVID-19 has brought to us. It really has been a fantastic week in the recent past. In reflecting on this past week, it is particularly pleasing to note the breadth and depth of the presentations, the active participation across the world, and the robustness of the discussions. The State of Play position paper on the changing role of funders in responsible research assessment, and the keynote address on research assessment and research culture afforded us a broad canvas on which to jointly paint the future of research assessment and responsible research assessment for that matter. It is clear that a great deal more needs to be done. There always is a great deal to be done after we've had these sort of deliberations. However, we are confident that our sustainable partnership, our strong sustainable partnerships and collaborations will secure a better future for research across the globe. Colleagues, this conference is timely as it strengthens some of the initiatives of the GRC. As you may be aware, or not, the Global Research Councils recognizes that worldwide growth of public support for research has presented an opportunity for countries large and small, young and mature in their research systems to work in concert across national boundaries. Cooperation, collaboration can enhance the quality of science, avoid unnecessary duplication, provide economies of scale, and address issues that can only be resolved by working together. Colleagues, research funding agencies, such as ourselves, have a responsibility to meet these objectives on behalf of our national research communities, but more importantly, on behalf of the global research communities. The 6 purposes of the GRC are to improve community data and best practice for high-quality research cooperation, provide a forum for regular meetings of heads of research councils, respond to opportunities and address issues of common concern in the support of research and education, be a resource to all of us, and particularly to those institutions wishing to build a world-class research landscape, particularly important for those that are emerging in the research space. And lastly, to explore mechanisms that support the global science enterprise and the worldwide research community. And this is in essence what we are trying to do, particularly giving expression to the last one. Since its inception, the GRC at its various meetings, which are held across the world, has produced several statements of principles and a whole range of other documents in support of its object. It is therefore appropriate to link the work of the GRC to this conference on responsible research assessment. When we started in 2012, the GRC endorsed its first statement of principles on scientific merit review, also referred to as peer review. This followed on a global summit on merit review, which was hosted by the United States National Science Foundation. And since then, we have grown and in many ways have become a reasonably influential body, I would like to believe, in the global science system. In 2018, the GRC visited the topic on merit review and revised the statement of principles to ensure that they remained relevant and reflected the changing strategic context and evolving nature of the global research enterprise. These revised statement of principles are intended to provide worldwide agreement on the core, high-level principles necessary for a rigorous and transparent review system. And I think you will all agree with me that adherence to these principles is a central prerequisite for building trust between transnationality collaborating funding agencies, and also to serve as a foundation for tolerance of difference in peer review or peer merit review systems that you will find across the world. We don't necessarily have a uniform and singular way of approaching this particular matter, but if you adhere to certain principles, then I think it becomes a lot easier to collaborate globally. A collective effort is thus required to bring about culture change on a global scale. And in many ways, funders, as part of a complex research ecosystem that reaches across national boundaries, we have a shared responsibility and must work together in partnership with all other actors. And here I wish to just cite a few: publishers, policymakers. We are more often than not in the public space, those that generate and produce league tables, research organizations, whether they are universities or, for that matter, research councils, and researchers and academics themselves, to support a healthy, dynamic, diverse research culture that is able to respond not only to our national challenges, but also to some of the world's greatest challenges. Colleagues, while this is an interdependent system, funders are particularly critical as they often have a freedom to initiate and influence change. Money often is a very powerful lever of nudging people towards a particular outcome. This reinforces the importance of a grouping like the GRC and of a meeting like this is in providing multiple funders with opportunities to exchange and learn from what works elsewhere. We, for instance, on the African continent, value from our engagements with our colleagues in Europe, North America, and Asia, as well as South America. It is in this spirit and the greater need for research collaboration across the borders during this pandemic that we decided that we need to proceed and move this conference online. These are challenging times. However, the issues that face us cannot necessarily wait. As a virtual event, it offers a multiple and a unique opportunity to hold international discussions on issues that individual funders have been grappling with over the years. We will, and we have, I believe, built on the previous work of the GRC on merit review, on research integrity, and interdisciplinary research, and the momentum across the globe within a number of stakeholder groups. While principles for research assessment set out in the framework such as DORA are well embedded in many countries, not all regions of the world are starting from the same point. There are a number that have, in some ways, pretty much adopted the principles of DORA, and others who are still maybe asking the question, what exactly is what is DORA going to do for the development of our national science system? And in this regard, I wish to refer to a statement made by the Minister of Science and Research and Innovation in the United Kingdom, the Right Honourable Amanda Solloway, in her address on the UK Research Excellence Framework. And she remarked that this conference on responsible research assessment is important. She also remarked that key to the discussions is evaluation, and that only by evaluating the system can we begin to understand what works and what doesn't. It's important for us to reflect and to ask ourselves sometimes uncomfortable questions, and to ensure that whatever we do and what we choose to do does actually advance our object. From a GRC perspective, this conference is a catalyst for deeper and broader discussion, which will assist the GRC and its members in considering this matter at the forthcoming annual meeting scheduled for May 2021 in Durban, South Africa. You're all invited, by the way. In this regard, the GRC currently uses the modalities of statement of principles, which I've mentioned before, and another modality called working groups. As we have discussed this week, there are already many statements and set of principles for responsible research assessment. The GRC, therefore, does not need to develop another one. Rather, it does have a unique convening power in bringing together funders on a global scale to discuss the role and their role in implementing and embedding responsible research assessment in their own national practices and in the practices of those that they fund and support. So we have that potential ability to be able to change and influence and change the way things are for hopefully for the better. A GRC call to action on this topic would provide a basis on which participants could agree and therefore build. It will also build on previous GRC work, including, as I said earlier, on peer and merit review, and could inform subsequent activities such as the development of action plans or establishment, potentially, of a working group Currently, we have a working group on gender, and that has been incredibly successful in changing the way in which we in the research community deal with a common challenge of gender equity and equality in our science systems. I lastly wish to thank again UKRI, and in particular Research England, all our GRC partners, all the participants once again for ensuring the successful delivery of this conference. And I look forward personally to continuing to work with you, both in my personal capacity and in particular as the South African National Research Foundation and all other funding agencies on our continent as we go into the future. Together, I do believe we can do more. I look forward again to seeing you all in Durban in 2021. It will be, for those of us that are in the Northern Hemisphere, much, much warmer. And I would encourage you to come and enjoy the sun. I thank you and have a wonderful weekend.